Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let me ask you something. Have you ever touched a woman's hand and felt her pull away, not because she didn't like you, but because she felt like you didn't really see her? You were there, but you weren't really with her. She smiled, but her eyes held distance. Her words were soft, but her energy was guarded. And suddenly, you're left wondering, what did I miss? We live in a world where everyone talks about how to win a woman's heart, but no one talks about how to understand it, how to reach the hidden places, the soft corners, the guarded gates, how to speak to her in the language of subtlety, of presence, of emotional fluency. You see, a woman is not a puzzle to be solved. She's a symphony to be felt. And when you touch the right points, not just physical, but psychological, emotional, soulful, you unlock a level of connection most men never even know exists. That's what we're diving into today. This isn't about manipulation. This is about mastery, the kind of awareness that turns you into the man she dreams about at night. The one who gets it without her needing to explain. The one who touches her body. Yes, but also her spirit, her ambition, her fears, her fire. So stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand 6 powerful, often overlooked points you can touch, without even laying a finger, to awaken something deep within her. And when you do, you won't just be the man she wants. You'll be the man she can't forget. There's something I want you to sit with for a moment. Imagine this, you're lying next to a woman in silence. Her head rests softly on your chest. You feel her breath, steady, warm. Your arms are around her. But something's off. She's there physically, but emotionally, she's somewhere else. You feel her body relax into you, but her heart is still cautious. Still watching, still waiting. Have you ever felt that? It's one of the loneliest places to be, next to someone, holding them close and still feeling miles away. Not because you did something wrong, but because you haven't yet touched the places that matter most to her. Not her skin, her core, her womanhood in all its complexity, her inner world. That is where her trust lives. That is where her love blossoms. And that, my dear friend, is where most men never dare to go. Let's be honest. No one teaches us this. We're taught how to please, how to perform, how to provide, but not how to perceive. We're taught to touch her body, but not to understand the mind inside it. To kiss her lips, but not to read the silence between her words. And so we stumble. We reach for her waist, when what she really wants is for you to reach for her mind, for her memory, for the parts of her that even she has hidden away. This is not just about romance. It's about reverence. It's about becoming fluent in the unspoken. And today I want to show you how. You see, there are 6 psychological points, places not of flesh but of feeling, that when touched with presence and understanding, awaken something irresistible in a woman. Something that makes her feel safe, seen and sensually alive. Something that makes her open, not just her legs but her heart. And the first of these is her need to feel chosen. Now I don't mean chosen as in you asked her to dinner. I mean chosen as in she feels like she's the only woman in the room, even when the room is full. Every woman has this secret ache. It's not about being the most beautiful. It's about being your beautiful, your preference, your craving. She wants to be the one you notice when you're distracted, the one you think about even when you're in a meeting, pretending to focus. And the reason this matters so deeply, because being chosen validates her femininity. It tells her she is enough, that she doesn't need to compete, that she is the reward, not because of how she looks, but because of how she makes you feel. When you touch this point, this psychological space of exclusivity, you give her more than compliments. You give her presence. You give her confirmation. So how do you do this? You slow down. You don't just notice her, you observe her. You study her like a work of art you'll never fully understand, but can't stop exploring. You let your eyes linger. You say her name, even in casual moments. You remember the way she curls her hair to the left when she's nervous. You notice when she changes perfume. You bring up the joke she told 3 weeks ago, just to show her you're listening. Because when a woman feels chosen, she softens, her guard drops, she becomes playful, vibrant, emotionally available, and that's when the door to deeper intimacy begins to open. The second point you must learn to touch is her desire to feel emotionally safe. Yes, safety, not physical safety, though of course that matters, but emotional safety. The kind of safety where she knows she won't be judged for her chaos, where her softness isn't seen as weakness, where her sensitivity is not too much. Emotional safety is what allows her to exhale, to tell you the truth behind her anger, the fear behind her silence, the longing behind her independence. Because here's something most men miss: strong women are not strong because they don't feel. They are strong because they have learned to carry their emotions alone. What they crave deeply is not someone to fix them, it's someone to witness them, to hold space, to say, I see you, and not run. And this is where you come in. You don't need to have all the answers. In fact, trying to fix her too quickly will often make her feel dismissed. What she needs is your stability, your groundedness, the ability to sit in the storm of her feelings and not collapse under the weight, to hear her say, I'm scared, I'll never be enough. And instead of rushing to reassure, You simply hold her tighter and whisper, I am not going anywhere. When you create emotional safety, she blooms. She opens in ways that are breathtaking. Her sensuality intensifies, not because you said the right words, but because she trusts you with her rawest self. And that trust, that is the foundation of passion. That is what creates chemistry that lasts beyond the bedroom. So pause for a second. Ask yourself, when was the last time a woman felt emotionally safe in your presence? Not because you were charming, but because you were present. There's something incredibly erotic about a man who knows how to hold space, who can meet her vulnerability with reverence, not panic, who doesn't flinch when she shows him her scars. That man becomes unforgettable. That man becomes the one she dreams about when she's alone in the dark. So here we are, 2 points. 2 simple yet profound ways of touching a woman without ever laying a hand on her. Make her feel chose, and already she will begin to shift. Her eyes will linger longer. Her smile will deepen. Her heart will begin to soften in your direction. And as we continue, we're going to go even deeper, because there's another place she longs for you to reach, a point most men never even realize exists. And when you touch that part of her, something changes forever. You see, when you've made her feel chosen and safe, something inside her begins to soften. The mask drops, her performance quiets, the part of her that always feels like she has to be strong finally gets to rest. And that's when the third point becomes accessible, her imagination. Yes, her imagination, her inner world of fantasy, creativity, wonder, the landscape she rarely reveals to anyone because so few ever ask about them. This is the place where she hides the stories she wrote as a teenager, the dreams she buried under responsibility, the dance she does alone in her apartment when no one's watching. Every woman has this secret garden, a place that feels untouched, sacred. Most men are too preoccupied with what's visible to even know this place exists. But the man who dares to step into her imagination, who respects it, explores it, and even adds to it, that man becomes more than just a lover, he becomes her muse. So how do you touch a woman's imagination? You play with her, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that says, I see the girl inside the woman, and I adore her too. You flirt with her mind. You send her poetry not because you're a poet, but because you know words matter to her. You tell her your dreams, even the weird ones. You ask her about the books that shaped her. You say things like, if we disappeared for a weekend, just you and me, where would we go? And then you let her paint that world with you. Women live in stories. They feel in symbols. They remember gestures far more than speeches. Touch her imagination, and you awaken a deeper sensuality, because now you're not just stroking her body, you're stroking her curiosity. And do you want to know a secret? Curiosity is more erotic than certainty. When she feels like there's still something unknown between you, still a mystery, still discovery, then you become an adventure, not a destination. And women don't crave destinations. They crave journeys. They crave evolution. They crave becoming. So touch her imagination, and you don't just keep her interested. You keep her alive. Now let's talk about the fourth point, one that is perhaps the most underestimated and the most sacred, her wounds. This one requires grace, because every woman you will ever meet carries a wound. Some carry abandonment, others betrayal. Some were taught to shrink themselves to be loved. Others learned to fight for affection with silence, because words only brought pain. And here's what I need you to understand, not to fix, not to pry, but to honor. When you encounter a woman's wound, you're standing at the gates of her emotional temple. And how you move in that moment will determine if you get invited deeper or locked out forever. So how do you touch a woman's wound in a way that heals rather than harms? You begin with patience. You resist the urge to ask, what happened to you? Instead, you say, you don't have to share anything with me, you're not ready to, but I want you to know I'm here, and I can hold it. If you ever choose to let me in, you don't interrogate her pain, you give it room to breathe. And when she finally opens, when she says, I never told anyone this before, you do not shrink. You do not try to explain it away. You do not offer solutions. You stay. You listen like her soul is telling you a secret. You become still, present, and you tell her, thank you for trusting me with this. I see you. Those simple words spoken with sincerity are like medicine. They go places your hands never can. Because when a woman feels like you can hold her brokenness without making her feel broken, when you touch her wounds with reverence instead of fear, she starts to believe in a new possibility. She begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, she's not too much, that her past doesn't make her unlovable, that she's worthy of tenderness, even in the places she's tried to hide. And what's remarkable is this: when you meet her in her pain, you also awaken her capacity for joy, because the two live in the same house. And once she feels safe to grieve, she will also feel free to laugh, to tease, to play again. You didn't just touch her wound, you helped her heal. And that, my dear man, is unforgettable. Let's keep going. We've now explored 4 points: her need to feel chosen, safe, imaginative, and deeply seen in her emotional scars. But there's a 5th point, and this one will change everything if you truly understand it. It is her hunger to feel admired for her essence, not her role. Let me explain. Most women are praised for what they do. She's a good mother, a hard worker, a generous partner, a smart leader. These are roles, and yes, she takes pride in them. But deep down, She's wondering, does anyone see me outside of what I give? This is the woman who has carried the world on her back and never complains. The one who smiles when she's exhausted, who loves so hard and asks so little in return. What she aches for is not just a thank you. What she longs for is for you to witness her being, her essence, the energy she brings when she walks into a room, the way she carries grace in chaos, the fire in her laughter, the magic in her stillness. Touching this point requires more than compliments. It requires seeing past the obvious, noticing her silence in a group and knowing it's not weakness, it's discernment, catching the way she supports everyone and still manages to nurture her dreams, admiring not just her beauty, but the integrity beneath it. When you say, the way you handled that situation, it was pure elegance, or I love the way you think, the way you see the world, or there's something about your presence, it just feels like home. You're not just flattering her. You're seeing her soul. You're speaking to the part of her that is rarely acknowledged. And do you know what happens when a woman feels seen like that? She glows. She becomes more radiant. Not because you gave her something, but because you reminded her of what was already there. You reflected her light back to her. And that's intimacy. That's devotion. So here we are, my dear listener. We've moved through the realms of being chosen, of feeling safe, of being invited to imagine, of being honored in pain, and being admired for essence over function. And as we move forward, there is one final point we must touch, one final doorway into a woman's fullness, the space where sensuality meets spirituality, the place where everything changes. And now we come to the sixth and final point, the one that so many men ignore, not out of neglect, but simply because they've never been shown how to recognize it. It is the point that, when touched, creates not just love or passion, but transcendence. It is her longing to surrender without fear. Now, I want to be careful with this word surrender, because in the modern world it's misunderstood. It's often seen as weakness, as submission, as something you force someone into. But true surrender, the kind that lives deep in a woman's body, the kind she secretly aches for, it is not about powerlessness. It is about trusting so completely that she can finally let go. She wants to let go, not of her strength, but of her armor. She wants to melt, not because she's fragile, but because she's finally safe enough to be soft, to let you lead in moments, not because she can't, but because she doesn't have to dissolve into pleasure, into closeness, into emotional freedom without the weight of being in control all the time. But here's the truth. She can't surrender to a man who hasn't mastered himself. This is where most men struggle. They want her to open, to be vulnerable, to give herself fully, but they themselves are not anchored, not grounded, not capable of holding the intensity of her emotions, her desire, her complexity. And so she stays closed, not because she doesn't care, but because she's learned, if she opens too wide, she'll have to manage both of you. And that is a burden she's carried too many times before. Surrender is not about making her smaller, it's about expanding with her. So how do you touch this sacred point? By cultivating depth within yourself first, by becoming the kind of man who is emotionally fluent, who doesn't get shaken by feminine energy but inspired by it, who doesn't panic when she cries, or deflect when she gets passionate, or pull away when she needs reassurance. You become the man she can relax around, the man who says, through his energy, you don't have to hold it all alone anymore. It's in the way you breathe when she's storming. It's in the steadiness of your gaze when she's unraveling. It's in the way you stay, not to control her, but to contain the space with love and presence. That's when she surrenders. Not to you, but to the moment, to herself, to the relationship. This surrender is not sexual alone, but it touches her there too. Because when a woman can surrender emotionally, she becomes uninhibited physically. Her pleasure deepens, her responsiveness awakens, she moans louder, not just from sensation, but from release, from feeling so safe, so held, so met, that her whole body lets go of the tightness it has carried for years. And this is what intimacy is meant to be. Two people undressing not just their clothes, but their masks, their fears, their histories. This is where you meet her, not just in bed, but in soul. So pause for a moment and breathe this in. Have you touched these 6 points in a woman before? Have you made her feel chosen, like she is not just one of many, but the only one you see? Have you made her feel safe, like her chaos is welcome, like her tenderness is sacred? Have you touched her imagination, awakened her curiosity, her childlike wonder, her secret dreams? Have you seen her wounds and chosen to hold them gently instead of turning away? Have you admired her essence, the part of her that shines without needing to earn it? And have you made it possible for her to surrender, not by asking her to fall, but by being the man who's strong enough to catch her? If you have, then you know. You've felt her heart open like a flower in spring. You've seen the way she looks at you, not just with desire, but with reverence, with awe, with a kind of love that makes you want to become more of who you are. Not because she demands it, but because she sees it in you already. And if you haven't yet, there's no shame, no judgment. Only this, an invitation to rise, to become a man who does not just take, or perform or chase validation, but who connects, who understands that the real power isn't in conquest, it's in communion, it's in the gentle mastery of the invisible, the tone of your voice, the pace of your presence, the intention behind your touch. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be real, consistent, willing, open, because when a woman feels that from you, when she feels that you're not just playing a role, but actually embodying your masculine heart, then something ancient in her response, something wild, something soft, something true. And from that place, the relationship becomes more than a relationship. It becomes a dance, a ritual, a remembering of what it means to be alive, to be desired, to be seen, to be loved. So let me leave you with this. The most powerful touch you can offer a woman is your awareness. It is your eyes seeing the parts she hides, your voice speaking to the layers beneath her smile, your energy saying, I'm here, I'm not leaving, and I want all of you. Not just the pretty, not just the easy, but the full, complicated, beautiful truth of who she is. That is the man she waits for. That is the man she will never forget. That is the man she will rise for, surrender to, and love beyond logic. So if you're that man or ready to become him, then stay connected. Because this space, this channel, this conversation, it's just the beginning of your awakening. And if this touched something in you, if it opened your eyes, if it reminded you of what you've been missing, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, share your story, speak from your heart. Let's grow together. And if you found value in this, please like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore. Until next time, stay curious, stay present, and never forget, when you touch a woman's heart with truth, she will touch your life with magic. There's a moment after you've touched her in all the ways we've spoken about, where her entire energy changes. It's subtle. It's not something she says with words. It's how she breathes a little softer when she's around you. It's the way her laugh flows more freely. It's in the trust you see in her eyes when she doesn't feel the need to armor up anymore. You didn't force her open. You invited her. And that is the difference between the men she remembers and the men she replays like distant noise. Now, let's sit inside something that most men don't often talk about. Once a woman opens, once she's let you into these deep psychological spaces, you're not done. You're only just beginning. You see, most men make the mistake of believing that once they've reached this level of emotional connection, it's now a destination. They rest there. They start to assume it's permanent. But a woman's trust is living. It breathes, it pulses, it needs tending. Her emotional openness is not a trophy. It's a garden, one that flourishes with presence and withers in neglect. And when that garden begins to wilt, not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped showing up, she doesn't always yell. She doesn't fight. Often, she just slowly fades. She stops sharing the little things, stops reaching out. Her body is still close, but her soul, it pulls away. And here's where many men become confused. She said everything was fine. They say, she smiled at dinner. She kissed me goodnight. What changed? But what changed wasn't an event. It was the absence of touch. Not physical touch, but emotional, psychological touch. She stopped feeling chosen, stopped feeling safe. She still loves you, but she doesn't feel loved by you. So, how do you keep touching these points? Not once, but always. You remain awake in the relationship. You don't just notice when she's upset. You become fluent in her emotional rhythm. You don't wait for conflict to deepen connection. You build it daily with your curiosity, your affection, your noticing. You stay engaged in your own emotional work, because the man who keeps her trust alive is the man who keeps evolving himself, who doesn't let life dull his sensuality or his attunement or his ability to wonder. And here's something else most men don't know. A woman's devotion deepens after the first wave of romance. It's not during the candlelight dinners or the first rush of sex. It's after, when she sees you hold her in grief, when she watches you lean into conflict without shutting down, when you continue to flirt with her after 10 years, not because you're trying to seduce her, but because you're still enchanted. That's when she begins to trust you with forever. Because every woman, no matter how confident, how successful, how strong, asks herself in quiet moments, will he still choose me when I'm not easy to love? Will he still cherish me when I'm tired, messy, overwhelmed? Will he still reach for me when life gets hard? And your actions, more than your promises, answer that question. So let me tell you this: if you want to be unforgettable, be consistent. Not robotic, not perfect, but present, reliable, curious. Be the man who texts her not to check in, but to tell her you can't stop thinking about the way she tilted her head in laughter last night. Be the man who brings home her favorite snack, not because it's a grand gesture, but because you noticed how her face lights up when she sees it. Be the man who kisses her forehead with reverence, who touches her waist with intention, who listens not to reply, but to understand the texture of her thoughts. These are the touches she craves. These are the touches that nourish her feminine. And there's something else you need to know, especially if you're over 30. The game changes. The stakes are different now. You're not looking to impress. You're looking to connect. You're not chasing a high. You're anchoring into depth. And the women you meet at this stage of life, they don't want surface. They don't want another man pretending to have it all together, hiding behind bravado and shallow charm. They want to feel your depth. They want to know your fears, your stories, your longings. They want to hear about the dream that scares you. They want to see the man behind the mask, not just because they're nosy, but because that's where intimacy lives. That's where truth begins. Because if there's one thing I've learned in all my years of working with couples, it's this. The best relationships are not built on compatibility. They're built on capacity. Your capacity to stay when it's hard. Your capacity to listen when it's uncomfortable. Your capacity to stay emotionally open when your ego wants to shut down. And most of all, your capacity to choose love even when it's not easy. Because love, real love, isn't about the peak moments. It's about the tiny, sacred moments in between. It's about the glance across the kitchen, the hand on the small of her back in the middle of a chaotic day, the way you look at her like she's still your favorite miracle, even when life feels heavy. That's the kind of man she stays soft for. That's the kind of connection she leans into rather than walks away from. So if you're sitting here wondering how to keep her attention, her desire, her devotion, don't ask, what else can I get from her? Ask, how can I keep touching her even when I'm not touching her? Touch her attention by being unpredictable in your affection. Touch her emotions by being curious about her changes. Touch her soul by honoring her becoming. And above all, touch her heart by being a man who sees her even when she doesn't feel beautiful, even when she's hard to love, even when she pushes you away just to see if you'll come back stronger. Because the man who does that, he's not just memorable, he's irreplaceable. What makes a woman fall in love and stay in love isn't always what you think. It's not the car, it's not the watch, it's not even the jawline or the bank account. Those may catch her attention for a moment, yes, but they will never hold her. Because what holds a woman, what keeps her, is not what you have, it's how you make her feel. It's the space you create with your energy. The tone of your voice when you say her name. The way your presence makes her feel like the most important person in the room, even if you've said nothing at all. We touch 6 points in this journey, 6 places inside every woman that long to be felt, not solved, understood, not controlled, held, not dominated. And now, here's what matters most. You must understand that these points are not steps in a ladder. They're not a checklist. They are invitations. Invitations to enter into a deeper experience of intimacy. Not just with her, but with yourself. Because in the end, the man who masters these points is not simply skilled with women. He is skilled in presence, in attunement, in love. And love is a practice, not a performance, not a trophy. Not something you win because you cracked some code. It's a choice to slow down, a choice to see, a choice to feel. It's the decision to show up, not only when she's glowing and smiling and welcoming your touch, but when she's withdrawn, when she's sharp, when she's scared, when she's testing your integrity, not because she wants to hurt you, but because part of her still isn't sure she's safe to fully trust. And this is where your power matters most. Not the power to dominate. The power to anchor, to stay rooted when her winds blow wild, to remain clear when her waters rise, to be a man who doesn't ask her to shrink just so you can feel big, but who rises to meet her in her magnitude. Because real connection doesn't happen when everything is easy. It happens when things get real, when your ego is burning and you stay anyway, when you're confused but you keep listening, when you're tired, but you reach out for her hand. Not because it's convenient, but because you choose her over and over again. And here's what no one tells you. When you love a woman in her fullness, when you hold space for her wild and her wounded, her playfulness and her power, she gives you access to something most men never touch. Her devotion. Not the kind you force, not the kind you chase, but the kind she gives freely, because you've earned it. She begins to pour into you, nourish you, believe in you in ways you didn't even know you needed. Her love becomes a mirror, showing you parts of yourself you'd long forgotten. She builds you with her softness. She expands you with her surrender. And suddenly you're not just a man who touches women. You're a man who moves them. So take a breath right now. Let all of this sink in, not as theory, but as truth, as a blueprint for deeper connection, as a roadmap for becoming the kind of man who doesn't just attract love, but cultivates it. Because here's the real secret. When you become the man who touches a woman on these 6 levels, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, you are touched too. You become more open, more grounded, more alive. You stop performing and start relating. You stop chasing and start attracting. And the love that shows up for you, it feels different. It feels honest. It feels earned. It feels inevitable. Because women respond to who you are, not what you do. So become a man worth responding to. A man whose silence speaks clarity. A man whose presence softens storms. A man whose heart is not locked behind bravado, but revealed through gentle strength. A man who doesn't just want a woman in his life, but one who knows how to hold her when she gets there. And for those of you watching right now, maybe something inside you has stirred. Maybe it's regret. Maybe it's hope. Maybe it's a quiet knowing that it's time to show up differently. Wherever you are in your journey, married, single, healing, seeking, it's never too late to become this man. Not for her, for you. Because when you start living in alignment with the kind of love you truly want, you stop settling for anything less. You stop playing small. You stop hiding your heart behind empty gestures. And instead, you show up fully, vulnerably, powerfully. That's the energy that changes relationships. That's the energy that changes lives. And I want to leave you with this. The woman you long for, the one who's magnetic, wise, soft, sensual, open, intelligent, intuitive. She's not out of reach. She's simply waiting for a man who can meet her there. And now you know how. You've seen the map. You've heard the music. You've felt the rhythm. The question is, will you dance? If this video touched something in you, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment below. Share your truth. Whether it's a story, a question, or a quiet thank you, your words matter. And if this conversation opened your heart or your mind, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so you don't miss the next time we dive into something deep and real. Because this isn't just a channel. This is a space for men who are ready to feel, ready to grow, ready to love, not from fear, but from freedom. So until next time, keep choosing her, keep choosing you. And remember, the touch that changes her life is the one that awakens your own.